And we are live. Let me see, make sure everything's going here. I think it's working. Dun, dun, dun. Waiting. Okay. It's working. Awesome. And okay, so this is another edition, a second edition of our Casual Convos. That's what we decided to call it. That was a group effort. I think it's more Melanie. Was her idea. So last week we talked. We had a nice discussion. We had a really good discussion. I think it was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yep.
And then basically we today's topic is credentials, and that actually developed from a conversation we were having. There was a individual that I have been researching extensively for about 2-3 weeks, and I was sharing information with the group, and we were talking about different aspects of the research, and the idea of credentials came up, and it was decided that this would be a great topic to get into, about credentials of people, whether they're legit or not legit, whether they're from a diploma mill, or if someone's acquired a title that maybe they did achieve legitimately, or whether they just gave it to themselves and are justifying it. So I thought this would be a great topic. We all thought this would be a great topic. And so here we are. And when we start, we're going to start by introducing ourselves, because we didn't actually do that last time. We kind of just jumped into the conversation. So we're going to go around. I'm going to start and just give a brief background, like a 1 to 2 minute background on each of us. So anybody watching this, you know who you're talking to, or you know who you're listening to. So real brief. Let's see. I wrote it down, and now I lost my. Oh my God. Okay, wait. Okay, so I'm Kenny Biddle, and my background is I used to be an EMT, emergency medical technician. I did that for 7 years. I was certified by Pennsylvania as a medical technician. I have associate's degree in automotive gas and diesel repair from Penco Tech, which is a accredited school. I have various Nissan and General Motors factory training, because I was an auto mechanic for years. So I have a lot of factory training throughout almost a decade worth. I have training from Pratt & Whitney for aircraft engines, various engines that I did when I was in aerospace, building helicopters. I have over a decade of photography experience doing weddings, portraits, special events, and so on. Pretty much everything you can do with photography. I have factory training for hospital x-ray systems. That's what I currently do. That's what I work on. I maintain, service them. I also, my experience as a blogger and a writer, YouTuber, and all that stuff actually got me a part-time job as a columnist for Skeptical Inquirer magazine, where I write about mysteries. I investigate mysteries, and that's pretty much been my background. And if you want to do bullshit background, I have a parapsychology diploma that I can show you right here. But that's a total bullshit diploma, and we can get into that later. So that's me, and I'm going to pass it over. The first face up here on my list is Dave. So your turn, Dave.
All right. Dave Schumacher, education-wise, undergrad, did my work in biology, minor in chemistry, graduate school, molecular biology. As far as paranormal stuff, I did Lloyd Auerbach's HCH parapsychology courses. I also took Dr. Carolyn Watt's parapsychology class online through the University of Edinburgh. I've taken 3 of the ParaMOOC, and that's the Parapsychology Massive Online class that's sponsored by the Parapsychology Foundation, and that's where they have a variety of different parapsychologists, psychologists, neuroscientists come and present on different topics in parapsychology. Right now, doing the executive education program at Northwestern's Kellogg School of Business. For work, let's see, going way back into the early 90s, I was a teaching assistant, taught general biology, lab classes, immunology at the university level. Worked for 5 years with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture as a plant pest and disease specialist. then spent 6 years in the pharmaceutical industry, started in sales, worked up through specialty positions. And then, let's see, I think it was 2011, I went to a company out in Pennsylvania that would develop R&D wise and market and sell semiochemicals, pheromones for pest control. And then 2 years ago, I moved to a company in Libertyville, Illinois, where I head up their Public Health North America group. And it's a company that produces various microbials, biologicals, and biorationals to control mosquitoes and black flies. Groups I've been involved with, the Paranormal Research Group since 2004. And then in 2014, I joined a group called the Trans Anomalies Research Team. And that's made up of both PhDs like Michael Persinger. He was part of it, Dr. Gayona, David Luke, and a bunch of graduate students working on their degrees. And that was a group that specifically looked at different phenomena in parapsychology. Publication-wise, 2 books. I've published some articles in five articles in trade magazines since 2006, 4 journal articles, and then various other research articles that you can find and sprinkled on websites here and there.
Damn. Is that all?
Well, I'm going to leave out the qualifications I sent you guys earlier on Messenger. We'll talk about those later.
All right. Next up, Melanie.
So I am not that special now. Thanks, Dick.
Oh, here we go. Here you go. Cheers.
So my name is Melanie. Let's see here. I have my first undergraduate degree is from UCLA, magna cum laude in history. I have another Bachelor of Science degree in political science. I have a Master of Arts in history, and I am currently a grad student earning my second Master of Arts in military history. As far as, let's see here, my qualifications, I worked as a journalist for 8 years with a major news bureau. I was actually more of a war correspondent. I started from the ground up as a boot reporter with no byline. And I spent a lot of time overseas. And I then went on to be an editor at a major newswire service. I also went on to join the military. I enlisted and I was a combat medic. And I did my tour in Iraq. I came home. I was medically retired from the Army. And then I became a paralegal specializing in criminal and family law, and also administrative law. What else? As far as the paranormal, so I can come up and I can start making some shit up like most of the people in the paranormal community, but I'll keep it real. I do not have some fake diploma or anything, unfortunately, and I have actually shown my actual transcripts and my framed diplomas to Kenny Biddle before we were even really friends. So I've put myself out there. So my transcripts are from real places. My grades are like, I actually went to brick and mortar schools. So none of those involved the paranormal. I did start doing some research back in April of 2000 is when I really started getting involved, and that was helping a professor research urban legends. I'm really good at being nosy and digging shit up. So that's where my background really started, in the paranormal. So I guess you could say that I've been in this for about 19 years, but most of my work is done in research and not really investigating too much. That's just started in the last 10 years or so. I have no technical background in photography. I am not an expert in thermal imaging, so I don't use FLIRs. I have not gifted in astral projection or psychics. I am not an empath. And no, I've failed to make anything happen with dowsing rods, so that's out. That's not on there. Yeah, that's about it. All of my credentials and my license, because I hold, an EMT license, an EMTI license, paralegal license. They've actually come from like real places. So I guess that's it. I'm not a public figure. That's it. I'm not a radio host. I have been offered, TV shows on the paranormal but I've kind of turned them down. So I'm not a para celebrity either.
Okay, non-para celebrity. Let's move it on.
Done.
Talk.
You know where I'm getting at with all of that.
I know. Anyway, moving on.
Thanks.
Noah, you're next on the list.
Oh, great.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate
follow
that.
up with an actual scientist, asshole.
We were sandwiched by him, it seems. So my name is Noah Lee. I have a bachelor's degree in biology. I have a master's of science in epidemiology and a second master's in cell biology. I worked for 11 years in basic science research at a local medical institution here in Wisconsin. I've recently moved on to a public health position, which I've been working for the last 3.5 years. So that is my education. I don't have any licenses. I don't have any special experience with cameras or anything like that. However, I did form my own paranormal investigation team back in 2007 called the Paranormal Investigators of Milwaukee. And I based that team off of what I learned in my first master's degree courses for epidemiology, trying to be able to design studies, even a lot of that in epidemiology. And so I first started doing this back in 2005, started with another group, thought they could be better. They didn't want to listen. So I decided to form my own, and I've been doing this now for a little over 12 years and have gone through basically every type of equipment that has come out there. I'm familiar with pretty much every show that's out there because we come across that from the public's perspective. We do a lot of presentations at libraries and such, and people come forward with things they've seen on TV, and so I like to stay abreast of that and to be able to understand what they saw and then be able to explain to them what it really was. So there's a lot of that happens, the education aspect of our group to do that. So that's basically my paranormal resume, if you will. Not on any TV shows, not any radio host or anything like that. But thoroughly enjoy the discussion and conversation that comes with it, and being able to speak with people of differing opinion, but like mine when it comes to these sorts of things.
Cool.
And I'll shut up.
All
now,
right,
mind you, we're all co-hosting a show right now, right? Oh,
yeah. Oh, damn.
Does
So
that make
we're
us
like TV stars.
celebrities?
Are we?
Only Kenny's hosting it.
oh,
we're
that's
just
right. We're just
guests
we're
on
just
it.
guests. Okay, good.
So do I take all the credit for this then, right?
So we're not
Yep.
public
Yes.
figures still.
And blame.
And all legal liability if it should happen.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, let Tim go. Tim's go.
All right, Tim, you're up.
Oh, I'm Tim Vickers. I did not know Kenny he trained with auto mechanics as well, but I did too. That was kind of cool. I went to Nashville Auto Diesel College out of high school, worked on cars and large trucks, loved it. Heavy diesels, great engines, loved working with them. After that, went to college, got my undergrad in psychology, have some post-grad work, but didn't finish. Started working for the state, working in child protective services, and did investigations of allegations of abuse and neglect for 12 years, supervised for the last 2. After that, I left and went to a child advocacy center where I trained and got my certification in forensic interviewing. And I've been doing that for 10 years and enjoy that a whole lot. Work close with law enforcement and prosecutors and child protective services in 3 counties. Been several states to travel to testify on abuse and neglect cases. My paranormal, all I can say is, to sum it up really easily, we started in 2000 a group in West Virginia, where I'm from, and I went from chasing orbs that were bugs in cemeteries to just going, this is all bullshit. So pretty much the gambit.
Sweet. Awesome. So that's pretty much all of us. I like how everyone just we're out there. You know, this is us. This is who we are. There's no bullshit about this. And you know, if you think there is, then come at us. We got this. So let's just jump into it. So credentials. I actually have a definition. I'll read off real quick. I'll try to read it nice and fluid, so I don't get yelled at by Mel. So the definition of credentials is qualification, achievement, personal quality or aspect of a person's background, typically when used to indicate that they are suitable for something, usually in training others. That's a basic definition. So what do you guys think? Like, I guess the genesis of this topic. Ooh, genesis. I haven't used that word like that. Fancy, right?
That was good.
The genesis of this word, this topic, came from an individual that, like I said, I've been researching, and they use a title. They actually use the title parapsychologist in interviews and in bios and on a video TV series that they used, that they were in, that they produced themselves, that they on YouTube. It's available for anyone to see. And the title card said parapsychologist. And when questioned about it, this person went on a very, very long justification, which, to be honest, most of it was bullshit. They went
I thought he did a pretty good job. I'm not saying I agree with it, but it was well written.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. He has a gift for
writing skills.
Yeah. But the problem came from the parapsychology, I guess, degree / diploma. It was a diploma. Came from a diploma mill, which was basically you signed up, you paid a fee, you got all the materials, and it was basically you got the materials and the test, and you took an open book test, and that was it. And the same this thing that I have is basically the same thing. I paid a fee, I got all the materials, and I was promised at least 150 hours worth of coursework. And I was done in exactly 5 hours. I was done. Didn't read anything, just took the test. I was done. So what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this? Somebody jump in.
Well, I think the first thing that we should talk about are there genuine from accredited universities degrees in parapsychology? I think it's the first thing that whenever someone makes any sort of claim about what they're, same with demonology, right? People come out there, I'm a demonologist. Are there accredited universities out there that actually produce a parapsychology degree?
Dave?
Yes. In the U.S., they no longer exist. Lloyd Auerbach would be one.
Why?
A lot of it's an academic stigma. Not only do people who study that field get looked down upon, there's not a lot of grant money either. Mm-hmm. So there's two things. It's kind of that stigma, and then if you don't produce grant money in a lot of publications, you just don't make it at a university level. They're there to do research and bring in money to the university. That's part of it.
Mm-hmm. I would think,
but we got to remember there aren't any more in the U.S. However, there are departments that have psychology departments that you could do a graduate degree in psychology, and you can do a research project and a dissertation in or on a parapsychology topic. So that's out there. There's a few of them, but as far as actually going and saying there's a parapsychology department, there's no more in the U.S. That is not the case overseas. The University of Edinburgh has a parapsychology department. It's the Colster Parapsychology Department, and that's Dr. Carolyn Watt heads that up. There's other universities in other foreign countries that do have parapsychology departments and programs. However, a lot of those still are part of the psychology department, where you would still get your master's or PhD in psychology, but you would do a parapsychological dissertation and research project. So yes, they are out there. Mm-hmm. They used to exist in the US. They aren't anymore, but they are out there. And the University of Edinburgh, that's one of the top 20 schools in the world. So it's not a crap diploma mill. It's a respectable university. And there's a lot of arguments. I was just listening to a podcast of Dr. What's his name? He just got his Masulo, Brandon Masulo, and he just got, not too long ago, he got his PhD from the parapsychology unit in the University of Edinburgh. And he was talking about all the reasons why they're more open to it out there. And those things, they're not studying freaking ghost boxes and digital EVPs and all this other crap. They're looking at beliefs, why people believe things. What they're trying to figure out, why people have experiences. What they're doing is applying the methods of science, the scientific method, to their research. You can research anything as long as you apply the certain criteria and methods of science. And that's what they do at these places. And if you pick up a parapsychology book, a lot of people are shocked what's in it. I mean, they're not saying ghost exists or ESP exists or PK exists. They're saying, here's the data. Here's what it says. We don't know. But they're still researching it. So, well, okay, sorry, I rambled on. But the short answer is yes, there still are degrees, but most likely you're going to get an advanced degree in psychology with a research project and a dissertation in parapsychology.
And that's my point, I think, is that, number one, they're numbered, right? It's not like you can go to any university in the country and get this. It's going to be some known universities where this is something that you can still pursue, whether it's going to be an actual parapsychology degree or psychology degree with a dissertation that was in parapsychology. But that would be a known thing. If someone said, yes, I'm a parapsychologist, here's my education. Oh, yeah, that's one of those universities. Makes sense. So it's really easy to quickly, you're bullshit or you're not bullshit, and we can quickly figure that out.
Agreed.
I think it's important to be open about your education. We've dealt with people sometimes, like with the individual that started this. At first, when I asked where the diploma came from, he was hesitant. I actually had to do research on my own, and we've dealt with that before. Some of us have dealt with that with people that claim to have, I don't know, for example, a PhD in quantum mechanics, that claim to have this PhD, and really, they went about getting rewards because of it, because they got lecture gigs, they got free travel and stuff like that around the country at different conferences because of these credentials that they claim to have. And then when
you know what's really annoying about that?
Oh, please tell me.
It is so easy. It is so freaking easy to check as to whether or not these credentials are from a legitimately accredited place, university, or even if it's a community college or a trade school. There's a big damn difference between that and a diploma mill. And if you're using an internet school or a diploma mill and there's no accreditation, that paper that you're claiming is your credibility and your credentials or whatever, it's nothing more. I would use that to wipe my ass after I take a big, huge dump. That's about as good as it's for. And it's super easy. So I don't understand why all these people that are booking them for these paracons and these shows and stuff like that don't take 5 freaking seconds to ask, oh, you got a PhD? Well, in quantum mechanics, from where? Oh, wait a minute. That school doesn't offer it. How hard is that?
That was good. But yeah, I mean, accreditation is really important, and I think because it's a standardization, right? I mean, who can explain what accreditation is? I can look it up real quick, but
Accreditation is essentially agreed upon standards for universities. It can certainly vary by state, but in general, you're going to have some parameters that the university has to agree to and demonstrate that they're meeting for the rigor that they're presenting for the courses that they do. And each course has its own, each degree course has its own level of requirements for that, science, English, history, whatever it is. They're going to have their own requirements that they have to demonstrate. Yes, when a student graduates with this degree, they can demonstrate these standardized things. That means that they're going to be whatever level, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD. They have their level of expertise in those different fields, and that's a standardized thing, and they have to show that on a regular basis. So it's not like you get your accreditation, that's good forever. They come back and they check and they make sure that the students that are graduating with these programs are actually demonstrating those different things. So
And yeah, wait for it. It's actually also part of the process is peer review. Holy crap. Peer review by board members of various other colleges and universities that they're of other accredited colleges that come in and do the review to see if it's worthy of that accreditation that you're seeking. So these are the peers, the experts, the other PhDs and masters and other universities that come in and take a look at it and see if it meets the standard of what they've set for that accreditation level.
And I think, from my understanding, is that there is at least two different kinds of accreditation. There's like a national and a regional. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like there's. I read something and it escapes me right now, but that regional accreditation is almost more important than national because of, I guess, like if you're practicing law and it has to be in the area. I'm not sure. I'm kind of throwing it out there.
I haven't. I don't doubt that that's possible because obviously different parts of the country. Well, obviously, and we're talking about in the United States, but obviously there's probably different standards in other countries as well that may not meet the U.S. So, like for instance, medical degrees is something very often that someone might get an MD from a different country. And they come to the United States, and sometimes that doesn't meet the standard of the medical degree here in the United States. And so then they have to either do more training or, they work at a lower level in a hospital here, or maybe not work in a hospital at all. So go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think I want to say it's like one of 5 or 6 major regional accreditation agencies. And I can't remember the name of the website, but there's a place you can go that kind of tells you what region and what accreditation and what it involves. I can't remember. It's been so long.
I see.
If I'm not mistaken, regionally accredited colleges, they're more academically oriented. They don't necessarily take all transfer units from everywhere. They're nonprofit or state-owned. And keep in mind, they don't really accept any kind of transfer credits from a nationally accredited institution. They're very, very strict. Okay. There's 6 actual regional accrediting agencies within the United States. Yeah.
Right.
When it's nationally accredited, those are the for-profit schools. They offer usually the vocational trainings, technical programs, career-oriented. They focus on religious education or career education. So that's why they're different. So usually when you're looking at universities or you're looking at something that is academic, then you want a regionally accredited school. Diploma mills, they don't fall under either. They've got the bullshit accreditation,
Right. Anybody can set up a website that says, it's University of Milwaukee, and come here to get your degrees in psychology, parapsychology, demonology, and poltergeistology, and all you got to pay is $150, and they'll get you a nice fancy diploma. We can email to you, and away you go. So you can, nowadays especially, it's really easy to put a really nice, slick looking website together. that makes it look extremely legitimate, but has absolutely nothing behind it. It's all fluff.
I agree. And there has been a bunch that I've come across because of the research I've been doing recently for an article, where I've come across like people saying that they're offering courses. Like there's a course on a doctorate for your metaphysical and paranormal sciences, and the woman that is teaching or offering the course, I don't know if she actually teaches it, but she offers the course, which consists of a book and a DVD. She claimed that she has a doctorate in paranormal sciences. Let me see here, and it's for a pro.
Okay, red flag number one. If somebody says they have a doctorate of paranormal sciences, probably doesn't have a fucking doctorate in paranormal sciences.
Whoa, and there we have our first F-bomb.
Kenny knows I get a little irritated
Yes.
on this one.
Damn, Melanie, actually,
It was not me.
there goes my $20. I lost money on that. That's great.
At least, and Kenny, we talked about this and some of the stuff you were corresponding with a certain individual. If you're going to try to fake it until you make it, at least use the right damn terms of the field. Unbelievable. All right, I'm going to mute for now.
So, yeah, I mean, just to continue on, I mean, let me make sure I was looking for certifications to go along with like the degrees and diplomas that we've been talking about, but there was a certification for a certified pro ghost hunter, and the woman that was offering it said that she had a doctorate degree in paranormal sciences. I emailed her and asked, simply, where did you get your doctorate from? And she replied, the University of Metaphysical Sciences, which is just a bullshit website that you can basically pay a fee, and it's an open book test. It's the same as this bullshit diploma that I have back here. And that's the kind of things that I'm seeing out there, because it really started with ghost hunter certifications, paranormal investigator certifications. Stratford Career Institute was one of the places where somebody has a astrology/parapsychology diploma from, and it was basically just an open book test. You paid a fee, a couple $100 too. I mean, you're like, I think the last one the last person I talked to that had that paid like $350, and they received this diploma. But they received everything. Like, they got the diploma in the mail. They got the CDs. They got the little like booklets. Mm-hmm. And you filled out the fucking certificates yourself. you wrote in
allow myself to certify myself. Wow.
So I guess what my question is for you guys is, and I'm going to direct it to Tim because Tim has not spoken yet.
Fire away.
What do you think about this when people say, you know what, they're either offering a class to teach you, say like, I will charge you $50 or up to like $150 to teach this class on ghost hunting because I have a doctorate in paranormal studies. What do you think about that?
You mean if I see that as an option for a class, or if someone's offering me a position to teach?
If you see this as a class, if someone, better yet, if someone comes to you at a paranormal conference or any kind of conference, a paranormal conference, we're going to go with that, and says, hey, you know what? I have a diploma in parapsychology.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it because, I took a course from a person that said they had a doctorate in paranormal studies. What do you think about, I guess, the level of education there? What do you think about the certification, the qualification?
I wouldn't trust the certification of that at all. Not at all. I like the diploma that's behind you. Everything that we've talked about. I don't. If someone would say that they have a parapsychology degree, my first question would be pretty much like everybody else right here would be, where did you get it from? I would, that not even just not even out of questioning if they're lying or not, but I mean, that's pretty interesting. I would like to know, if they did go overseas, if they did study something here or get a master's in psychology like Dave was talking about, it still would be interesting. And if they did, I would love to sit down and talk to them because I could learn from them. But if they told me that they ordered a booklet from, Ghost Hunters Are Us and they got to print their own certificate, then there's really not a whole lot to talk about. And I would say, well, congratulations. I hope that works out for you. Works out for you in the future. There wouldn't be much for me to talk about.
Do you think, and I'll open this to everybody, one of the questions or one of the statements that was posed to me was that someone with a parapsychology diploma from a diploma mill, if they were in the same room with someone that had their advanced degree in psychology and then went on to parapsychology, like I don't know, Lloyd Auerbach, if they were in the same room together, the statement was the scientist that would be in that room with them would only laugh at the guy with the diploma a little bit less, but both would have the same amount of weight carried with their words and with their descriptions and with their knowledge.
No. Only with ignorance.
No, I think they might be laughing considerably when they both give presentations.
Yeah.
On the research they've done and the work they've done. I think that's totally ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That, again, is another sign that person does not understand what a real graduate level degree entails. I don't care if it's parapsychology or psychology or biology or whatever. That is somebody who does not understand what that degree is, or they have no respect for it.
Or they've not tried a graduate level class.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what that is.
So how about if we build on that and say, and this is especially directed at Melanie, if they refer to your diploma, your degree, as just a piece of paper, I only have the little icon and I can already see the face she's making. What if?
Okay, let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
I get really fucking pissed off when I read that part, that it's just a little piece of paper, because clearly they don't understand, kind of like what's already been said, the amount of work that goes behind that little piece of paper. As you guys know, earning my second master's right now, I stay up for days sometimes. For just one semester, 33 books I've had to read. And then you have to sit there at the end of it to get that piece of paper at a graduate level. Because keep in mind, these people aren't claiming to have the lowest degree. They're not claiming to have an associate's or a bachelor's. For some reason, they want these advanced degrees. And yet none of them have had to sit in a chair across a committee table and have to do their written examination, their oral examination, or defend a thesis. They don't know what it's like to have to go and spend hours upon hours upon hours doing research and then having to defend yourself, defend your work, and then having someone peer review it and question everything. They haven't done the work. No graduate, no advanced degree should be reduced to a simple piece of paper, because if that's what you're doing, then clearly you don't respect education. Clearly you have no firm grasp whatsoever as to what higher education is. So you can go home, grab your crayons, draw out your own diploma, because that's about all that you're worth. Done. Mic drop. Over.
So I would like to point out, like, something that kind of came to me when I was listening to that. So if someone that is talking about someone with a graduate diploma or just a bachelor's level diploma, and they refer to it just as a piece of paper, I kind of that kind of, for me, that gives me a feeling that they want to be on the same level, or at least be seen as the same level as someone that they're looking at with an advanced diploma, but they can't, or they haven't either put in the time, or they don't have the whatever it takes to put in that kind of time. So their only alternative is to reduce what that piece of paper means by calling it a piece of paper to bring that person down instead of taking the work and the time to build themselves up to that.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, when it comes down to it, yeah, it's a piece of paper that people, when they get it, they worked really long and a lot of times pay a lot of money to get. And that piece of paper isn't just that, but it produces not only a depth of knowledge in the field that you have gotten that piece of paper in, but it also produces the ability to apply how you learn that knowledge to other things. It gives you a way of learning that if you don't have that piece of paper, it's difficult to get. Which I want to segue a little bit into the fact that just because you don't have a piece of paper doesn't mean that you can't be knowledgeable about a subject that you don't have a degree in. There's lots of people that I know who are very knowledgeable in scientific fields that don't have a piece of paper in a scientific field, but they've gone through the effort of going and reading books and talking to people who do have that piece of paper to say, this is what I think about this. Does that make sense to you? And then taking that peer review, that criticism, that and learning from that so they can talk about it in a authoritative manner. So I want to make sure that this doesn't come across of just, well, if you don't have a piece of paper, you're just a dumb box of rocks, so don't bother coming and talking to us. That is, I know that's none of our opinions, but the fact of the matter is when you can't belittle that. You can't say, well, it's just a piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything. It means a lot. It means a lot, especially the people who put the time and effort in.
Because I would say there's a fine line. I don't think that you can go home and read a book and teach yourself quantum mechanics or quantum physics. If it comes down to a piece of paper, if I'm going to the doctor and I'm going to have surgery, I want that surgeon to have a piece of paper from a legitimate school, not some place where he just spent $400 and then he got this piece of paper. If I have someone who's going to diagnose me, I want them to have at least some sort of training. So I think it all depends on which field that you're talking about. And I think that's where it's kind of interesting in this hobby, because technically you don't need a degree to do this. So I don't understand why people are trying to create credentials that aren't even necessary.
That's a good setup, because I think what's happening, and way back before ghost hunters hit, it was ghost hunting. Everything was ghost hunting. Then the ghost hunters hit, and it was ghost hunting, ghost hunting, ghost hunting. Then you started to see this switch and change and metamorphosis to paranormal investigator, because that sounds more impressive. That's way more impressive. And then everybody started using that. Then I started hearing paranormal researcher. Ooh, researcher. That sounds sciencey, and it sounds even more impressive because we're doing research. And now I'm seeing some people venture into the parapsychology, naming them or giving themselves the titles of parapsychologist. And part of it, I think, is people are trying to gain credibility above the masses to further promote and make themselves look good. That's just my thought.
It's an attempt to separate themselves from the field and give themselves authority.
And unfortunately, a lot of people in the field don't know any better. They look at it and go, wow, that's awesome, dude.
Wow. You mean like someone has an ego and they want to be better than other people?
Yeah.
Superior?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, one time we were playing around with some Google Analytics and Google Trends, and I did a search. I searched the terms ghost hunter and parapsychology. And no kidding, if you compare that against when the paranormal TV shows were big, you see parapsychology drop, ghost hunting go way up as far as search terms. It's kind of interesting. Then you plot the number of ghost TV shows, ghost hunting shows, and there was definitely a correlation. It was just hilarious. So I think the field has changed, and people are trying to set themselves apart from all the others to get the speaking gigs and to look important.
But just there's also, and I agree with that, but then, you know what I just realized is that there are some regionally accredited or community colleges that are now offering paranormal courses.
Okay, but hold on. Are they for the school for credit or the adult continuing education?
No, these are with the schools. And I know that there is one. Yeah, there is one in Tennessee. It's an elective course, granted, I mean, you can't get an associate's in it. But
Right,
it's
but
just
it counts towards your credit for your
it counts
associates?
towards your credit as
Who's
an
teaching
elective
it?
course. That's my issue. The person who's teaching this course, and then there's also one of the community colleges in North Carolina as well. They have, because I had to start digging because it blew my mind. Claim because they got their, because to teach at a community college, you do not have to have a doctorate. And to teach some of these elective courses, time in the field will count. Your experience will count for some of these elective courses. And that's what he used as his credentials, that and the fact that he wrote a book. So his book is one of the texts that is also being sold. So I want to, throw out there that it's important that just because you take a course, let's say at a community college or a college that is accredited, it doesn't necessarily mean that the course that you're taking, if it is involving the paranormal, it's any sort of credentials, because this supposedly, once you graduate, you get a certificate. Once you complete that course, you'll get a certificate in that class, of certificate of completion, and people are using that as credentials themselves. So
yeah, the certificate of completion, that's a lot different than actually counting towards your associate's degree,
no, it counts as an elective course towards the associate's degree.
See, I've never heard that.
This instructor is also giving a certificate of completion with his coursework that he's giving. And they're starting to sprout up, because keep in mind, community colleges are looking for students to enroll because they still have to complete everything else, and you can't just take this one class. And it's quite expensive because you've got to pay your tuition as well. So to me, it's only when you're getting into these advanced degrees and these advanced titles that I really start to get incensed. If you want to sit there and say, well, hey, I took a class on this or that. Well, I could take a class in underwater basket weaving. Doesn't mean I can swim. It's a class. So that's not going to mean anything else,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little disturbing. I mean, I've seen them at
a little,
local,
a little disturbing.
A lot. I've seen them at the local community colleges where it's kind of a continuing adult education, like a summer thing or a nighttime thing, where some group will come in and teach ghost hunting, and you pay your $50 for 2 weekends, and that's it. That's a lot different than actually allowing it to be part of a degree program, which every once in a while you'll see one of the major, like a 4-year university within the psychology department, they might have a professor that has an interest in anomalous psychology, and they may teach a little bit on the subject, or maybe one class as an elective, but those are really few and far between.
Yeah, and actually, we worked with a professor at my alma mater, Ripon College. He was a sociology professor, so he was looking into the sociology of why people do paranormal investigation. Actually, he wrote a paper on it, published it. But he had a class. It was like the sociology of the paranormal, and he had us come up and talk like, this is what we do for investigations. This is type of things we try to do, why we try to do them, and the students could ask questions, sociology-based questions like, oh, what are your religious beliefs, and what do you hope to gain from this, and things like that. So I do agree that what Mel said is, I haven't seen it. I've seen what Dave referred to as far as the adult continuing ed sort of situation, where there's all sorts of different classes associated with that. And I haven't seen it at any 4-year universities, but 2-year universities and community colleges, I've seen a couple of those things come up. And then also at like recreation classes, they'll do things like that as well. But Mel brought up an interesting thing about the book. And one thing that I've seen in the time I've been in the field is, if you write a book that has anything to do with the paranormal, that gives you credibility in the field. And we're talking about credentials, and it's not a credential per se, but if you can say you're an author in the paranormal, that seems to open up tons of doors in this field. And I don't really know why that is, because it doesn't matter if your book is garbage or not. It's just, oh, you're an author? okay, great. I want you to come talk at my conference. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. So, I don't know if you guys have come across that yourself in the parts of the country you guys are in, but
I think that
I've read Kenny's book.
Whatever. Fuck you, bitch.
I read Kenny's book. I own it. That's how I met Kenny. I had to write him for his book.
I think
Nice knowing you, Kenny.
Well, I got a good
Cam
head
is out.
because she's in California. It's going to take a while for her to get to me. I think what you're talking about there, Noah, is more popularity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because as you said, like if you author a book about the paranormal, it seemingly gives you credibility, but it's only within the paranormal community, not like the micro community. I like that. I like that term. But not outside, because I have four shelves of books over there, not this shelf, but over that way, of those kind of books. And I see that you go to a paranormal conference and it's like, oh, well, we have a speaker so-and-so. He wrote a book about how to ghost hunt. And like you mentioned, it's usually crap. It's usually a crap freaking book. But because they wrote the book, they are an author. It's like, oh, their name's out there. It looks, you can look up on Amazon or in Google or whatever, and their name pops up as an author. So it's a draw. It's some kind of popularity thing. Just like, someone that maybe, has a podcast that promotes that and says, oh, I have a podcast. I've been doing it for 20 some years, and just puts it out there and expects to get asked to talk at paranormal events. I think that's more of a popularity, not contest, popularity aspect more than like some kind of good background that makes you have something interesting to talk about.
I will see it as the same vein as these fake credentials, though, because if someone wrote a book about something, people generally assume, well, geez, they must know a lot about it. And the same thing goes with a degree. Oh, do you have a degree? You must know a lot about that thing that you have a degree in, because you wouldn't get a degree without that. So I don't know if they're exactly equal in my mind, but I think that how it used to be, how publishing used to work, it was very hard to publish a book. Now with self-publishing and everything else that goes on, anybody can publish a book if they want to. It's really easy to do. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the scale has not shifted in that way when people think about authors. Like when I'm thinking about author, oh, you wrote a book, okay. Well, who published it? Where did it come from? First and
foremost. Has it been reviewed?
I mean, that's what I look for, and that's a good point. You can author a book, you can do a podcast, you can do a TV show or a video series. Anybody can do that nowadays. It doesn't take anything. It does not take any qualifications to be someone that does videos. It doesn't take anything to be an author, because you can self-publish. You can self-publish a book. You can self-publish video series. I do it. And to be honest, like some of the techniques that I used for my videos, I've learned from little kids that that like 10-year-olds taught me how to do stuff. But anyone can do it. It doesn't take really special skills, because you can YouTube just about anything and learn how to do videos and books and a podcast, and that gets you popular. And
the same goes for magazines, though, when they say, well, I've been published in this magazine and that magazine. Okay. One of the first things that I do is, and part of this is because I did work as an editor for a while. And Kenny, my background in writing is I look at how did they write? I'm checking the grammar. I'm looking for punctuation. I can guarantee you that nine times out of 10, all these people who said, well, I've been published and I wrote for this magazine and that magazine. I look at 1, the circulation. 2, let me look at that article, because I'm definitely going to find some errors. Look at other articles that are written in there. And, that is a huge giveaway, because if it's self-published, or if it's just like a hobby magazine that's published around anywhere or just circulated, that's not really, counting as anything. Anybody who's been through true publication understands that, especially for journals, it is ruthless. That peer review is ruthless. So, the criticisms, the critiques that you get, and the rejections, I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, it is. And, we went through it a couple of years ago. We wrote a peer-reviewed article with one of Michael Persinger's graduate students. He was doing his PhD. He had published a whole bunch of other papers. We wrote a paper with him, and first place we submitted, nope, not interested. And the 3 pages of feedback, peer review, it was brutal. It was rough. It was really rough. And, it was a very high standard journal. So we realized that it probably wasn't, a good fit. So we graciously bowed out. We learned from what they told us. We reworked it. We redid it, and we submitted it to another journal, which eventually it was accepted. But that process took us almost 2 years for one article, and it was based on 2 case studies. That was it. But the level and standard of publishing, even in low impact journals that might be related to the field, it's a bitch. It isn't just you write something and slop it on your website. And people do that. And I will say, I have seen very good studies that people have written up and put on their websites. One of the things is I always look at it and say, just because it's a low impact journal, or you may not have heard of it, or somebody did it themselves, I do still look at it, because I can, at least I think in my mind, I could be wrong, that I have a pretty good sense of what might be quality data and study or not. They're out there. There's not a ton of them, but there's a few. So I'm willing to take a look at it. But again, going through the peer-reviewed process on a real journal, it's a pain in the ass.
But I think they like to use that because, and Kenny, I think it was you that mentioned it, or no, was it you, Dave, or I don't know, one of you fuckers did it. But you said the whole thing is because they, the titles have switched and now people want to be considered paranormal researchers. And I think that's what really starts to get me ticked off. Research is more than just Google. True research, there's a method to it. There's a lot that goes behind it. There's a lot of time.
It's a talking flashlight.
Yeah, and it bothers me because there's people like myself that we are actual researchers, and it has taken a lot of work, time away from my family, a lot of money, long hours, just to be able to say I am a researcher. Here is my work. Not just on an urban legend or an urban myth, but look, I've done this work on Native Americans, or this work on Lincoln, or what have you. And there's a lot that goes behind it. So whenever someone tells me, well, I'm a paranormal researcher, I say, well, really? Can you define it? Can you tell me what methods you've used? Kenny, you're big into science, and Noah, you're an actual scientist. If somebody sits there and they says, well, I'm a paranormal scientist, you'd start asking them about, what methods do you use? Do you understand, and dropping words, just to see if they understand it. That's what I do. It's not, and some people have mislabeled me as a snob. And it's not that I'm a snob, and it's not like I'm some sort of badge protector. It's just that I have a lot of respect for true researchers. I understand what they go through. I've been through it myself. And yeah, it's something that you don't just want to throw around, just kind of like what that person threw in his conversation with you, a medical doctor, he's not claiming to be a PhD or this or that. Well, that's how I feel about when you use this term, I'm a paranormal researcher. Why? Because you use an Ovilus and you go sit in someone's house for 4 hours listening to nothing. That makes you, and then you Googled something and you regurgitated what you took off some bullshit site right off the bat. That's not a researcher. You're a web browser. That's all you are. You're a fucking scavenger.
Paranormal web browser. I like that.
That's nice. I like that. But I agree.
And I think a lot of that same point you just made is really expressed and flushed out in Sharon Hill's book, Scientifical Americans.
I have that
book. I got it. She signed my copy.
I helped out with some of the pictures in there.
Oh.
Which is nice.
It's better than my signed
What
copy.
do you want, Kenny? You want another certificate? Is that
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
want this one framed or
Like he
laminated?
needs
I
more
want-
shit on those shelves behind him.
I know.
Do you want your own bobblehead that
Yes,
says,
please.
"I'm Kenny Biddle, never stop learning"?
Yeah. Okay. You're so lucky. I love you.
Hey, Dave, I got a question for you.
Yep.
Oh,
You said you're in Illinois right now, right? You said
What's that?
you're in Illinois.
Yes.
Have you heard of Mary Marshall?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
We'll
'Cause
talk
I've-
offline.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
I
heard.
haven't.
Yep.
Do share.
Well,
Noah,
I'm
you brought it
Googling
up.
now.
Mary
I've
Marshall
heard,
is the.
I've heard of. I have not. I have.
I've
not
met her.
yet.
The first time I ever encountered her was at a paranormal conference in Rockford, Illinois, and she is the paranormal MD. And she does teach at various colleges and in Illinois, Palatine, Illinois, Harper College.
I know who you're
Uh,
talking about. Holy shitballs.
So when I first met her, I was very confused. I'm like, paranormal MD, does the MD stand for medical doctor? And she said, oh yeah. So
What?
I said, that's what she told me. So I said, so where did you get your degree in? Oh, I'd love to talk to you about that, but I have a lot of people at my table right now, so if you could come back later. And then before the end of the conference, I didn't get a chance to talk to her again.
wow. That's surprising.
I can see the surprise on Kenny's face.
Like wow.
So it's in your neck of the woods. So I mean, I know she makes the circuit, but I figured you'd heard about her, but
I've heard. Haven't haven't run into her. We've only been back in this area about 2 years. And actually, this past year was the first time we've decided to venture out to a paranormal conference. We usually don't go to a whole lot of them anymore. And I think the last time I did that is I went to the Gettysburg Ghost Gathering a few years ago, and Kenny was there. And then we didn't go to another one for about 4 years.
So what? I'm the problem?
No, you were not the problem. It was other people that were the problem. And I believe that's where I first met the individual that Kenny's been talking to that kind of sparked the topic for this show. And it was kind of funny.
No, he wasn't there.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, we did a tour through he had something set up, didn't he?
Oh no, that was a different. Tim and I went to a different conference.
He was there at the one we were at. Remember when it rained and the weather just sucked?
Yeah, he wasn't there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was there.
Are you talking about the physics guy?
No, I'm talking about the guy you're interacting with.
I'm gonna have to check because I don't think he was there.
I'm pretty sure he was. Because I think I remember you said that he talked to you. He talked to you and he said he was going to get into random number generator stuff. And you said you're going to need to go talk to Dave.
No, that was not.
Was that the other guy?
That was
okay,
the
never mind. All right,
physics
never mind.
guy.
All right,
So,
never mind.
Okay,
So anyway, either way, it was bullshit. Sorry. Go ahead.
So since we've addressed this and we've covered all of this ad nauseum tonight, I would say, what now? So I mean, because we have this, because when you start calling people out, and this is my problem, Paranormal Micro Society, when I call people out and I say, well, that's a bullshit credential, or you don't have this to back that up, or what makes you qualified, automatically I have been labeled a paranormal bully. Okay, if that makes me a paranormal bully, fine. I was a bully when I was a kid too, so my feelings, get over it. But what can we do? Why is it that we are bullies, or we're attacking people, or we're anti-para unity? Not a real thing, but we are, exactly, I'm a bully because we call this out when we've just addressed why it is problematic. So if we can't call them out, what do we do? What are we supposed to do?
I would say we just. I mean,
because everybody is now, the new trend, remember, is how can we advance the paranormal community? How can we advance this field?
Yep.
Well, one of the ways we can advance it is to do this.
The people that are complaining, the individuals that are complaining about you being a bully and all that kind of bullshit are the ones that are making this shit up. They're the ones that they're promoting themselves as what they are not, and they're promoting. They're trying to teach classes that they are not qualified to teach. So, for me, I would say the best thing to do is to keep doing what we're doing. Yes, question them, call them out, and I guess don't be a dick about it. And I'm not saying you're being.
You know who I'm talking to.
I know
realize
exactly who you're talking about.
See, so I would say the only nice person on this entire panel is like Noah. No, actually, I'd add Tim because Tim doesn't talk. What the fuck? That doesn't count.
What the fuck did I do?
How dare you call me nice?
No, I mean, that's a good point. What do you do? I mean, I think what brought us together is we're trying to make the field better somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's possible, but that's kind of what I would like to try to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a consumer protection thing to me. And that probably goes back to my days of working for Department of Ag. They also had a consumer protection division. And it was more of buyer beware. Here's kind of the things you should look at. If you think
there you go,
this is something that's worthwhile, what should you ask? What should you look for? I mean, for me, the basic thing is, like we've talked about, what's your background? What's your qualifications? What have you done? And for me, any class, I would always ask for and look at the syllabus. What are they going to talk to you about? And it's a little different for all of us because we've been doing this for so long and we know what to look for. But I can usually tell from a syllabus if it's going to be a worthwhile class or not. And also, there's nothing wrong with asking whoever's teaching it is, what is your source material? What references are you giving? What textbooks are you going to use to teach?
But that's a class. That's not, and that's why that's just part of this paranormal micro society, and that's a small fraction of them. The majority of the people in the paranormal, and the majority of the people who are not even in the paranormal but are following it. That's if we really want to advance this, those are the ones we need to address.
That's a good point. I think years ago, and I think it was 2010, 11, when we moved from Wisconsin to Janesville, we used to be very involved in the paranormal community, but we got so damn sick of it. We bailed. We just kind of went underground for a while, and we're like, I don't want anything to do with it. It's a bunch of crap. I'm done. Which then you saw this massive wave of stupidity. And, maybe it's not just going into hiding. Maybe it's being vocal. Maybe it's going to these things. I mean, Kenny I'll give him credit. He does a great job with that. He goes to these things, and sometimes I'm exchanging messages with him and he's at a psychic fair. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing at a psychic fair, dude? You're trying to kill yourself. But, maybe it is the voice of reason needs to kind of bubble out. And maybe the time is better. The timing's better now because the shows aren't quite as popular. I don't know. I don't know what the solution
there's a bunch more coming out. But.
Yeah, there's a lot more coming out.
Ghost hunting naked. Yay.
Paracons. And I've noticed the trend then is like it's happened to Kenny, it's happened to me, it's gonna happen to you, Dave. It's that what they do then is these people who feel like they're being attacked because we've questioned them. Then they go on to other larger groups or larger paracons, or they'll put it in a larger public paranormal forum that they're being bullied or that they're being attacked, and they're going to take the high road or this or that. And then all of a sudden you see all these other little small paranormal teams, paranormal interest groups, what have you, start jumping on that bandwagon. And then it makes it hard for people who do to really come forward and really get into these paracons because they've then been labeled.
Yep. And there's been plenty of these paracons that I've offered to give a talk at. And they're just, I think there's two problems. It's what we've talked about. It's the para-celebrities. It's the support in continuing the misinformation campaign. And people want to hear certain things. They want to believe. So they want to, hear things that support their beliefs. And they, unfortunately, I don't think they want to know the true information. So you're kind of
a lot of times
that
is the case.
So what do you do though? I mean,
it's education.
What
we try to do is Well, you can't make people listen, right? But I have spoken at like I said, the conference that I met Miss Paranormal MD. I was invited speaker for that, and everyone else's talk is about all this ghost picture this or most haunted place that, and I'm giving a talk on the truth behind the Ed and Lorraine Warren movies, or common misconceptions for paranormal beliefs, and like these are things that people almost roll their eyes at me when I do it. But the point is that if I get through to one person that's at that conference or makes them think twice about one thing that they've seen or they think, then my job is done. Plus, I can be the voice of reason when other things are being spouted off. I can raise my hand and say, well, have you thought about this? Or, can you tell me what controls you used in that to ensure that it wasn't XYZ instead of the ghost that you've claimed it to be?
What controls? What?
Yeah, sorry, I'm using big words again. Apologize. But really, education, I think, is key. Like, we give talks at library events. We call them library events. At libraries. Libraries will always ask us to come in and give a talk. And we have like a very kind of interactive talk. It's fun. But there's a lot of really good information about how what's on TV is not what this is. And to really try to, I call it, we're like dream crushers, because people will bring their like most treasured paranormal evidence to us, and we'll be like, well, thank you. We're very respectful about it, right? Because people put a lot of belief and emphasis on these things. So we're not just like, yeah, that's garbage, please walk away. We're like, okay, well, I understand how you could see that. And we try to walk them through how it might be something else. And you're right. There's people who they're just not going to be dissuaded from this is something paranormal. And I've been told, I know what this is. I don't need you to explain it for me. I just want you to tell me it's a ghost. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not what we do. So we will give you an opinion about it, but it will be our honest opinion. And if you don't want that, then I can't help you. And in those instances, you can't. Like, all you can do is present the information. Yep. And that's what I try to do, is like get to the point, at least presenting the information, and then hope that even if they're like, oh, screw that guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about, maybe in the back of their mind, they're like, well, that guy did say that thing. And geez, now that I think about it, it does look like that an awful lot the next time that it comes up.
There's something I want to say to follow up on with Noah.
Wait, Tim's still here?
Yeah.
Oh, Tim.
Nice.
I join your all's podcast so I can learn. I've got notes. So, when you were saying that people bring you stuff so that they seek validation of what they already believe that they have. I know Dave kind of talked about the explosion of the paranormal TV shows. So, we got together in 2000. That was a few years before the big TAPS hit. It wasn't long after TAPS that when we would get calls, their calls were, they want us to come in and validate that they have a ghost. And typically it wasn't anymore, it wasn't like a home visit or anything. It was more old hotels, old bars, anywhere that they could seek to have some type of extra something to give to bring people in. Our bed and breakfast is haunted. That's kind of where, at least for me personally, I took a dive from the paranormal like Dave did. So, it was very, I don't want to say exploitive, but it was used more for business. Now it's used more for commercialization. That's what I wanted to say. It turned how I viewed, where we were in the paranormal. And I started to veer away. And the second thing that I thought about when we were talking about people being bullied or how they feel like they were being bullied, I kind of feel, at some point when you get questioned enough, or let's just say your first question, when you get confronted and you're questioned face to face, you have two choices. You can either listen or you can dig into your beliefs, or, maybe the three choices, you walk away. The first time that happened to me, and I remember very clearly because it was so awkward for me, we were at this house, that we just knew was haunted. So yeah, I'm going to talk about my early days when I was like terrible. So, there was no question in my mind that we were at a haunted house and we were doing research and we were gathering information. Well, some people came over, they had some knowledge. They were obviously trained. I'm assuming that they had college and different backgrounds. So inside this house with, here I am, a paranormal expert. They said, "Why are you setting up infrared, cameras?" And I was like, "Obviously to catch ghosts." Hello. They said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "A ghost." And they said, "No. What are you looking for in that? Be very specific." And I was like, "A ghost?" And they were like, "Okay, you said that, but what are you looking for? Like, what is it when you see it? Like, what is it?" And I understood what they were saying. They were asking me, how am I going to distinguish between what a ghost is and what a light anomaly is? And I remember feeling this like, ah, shit moment, because I couldn't answer that. And it was the first time that I was like, what the fuck am I looking for? I never really thought about it. So while even for me, I was challenged, and I feel lucky that I didn't feel like I had to get into this big battle. And with this person, she was really nice. She just flat out said, "Tell me very specifically what you're looking for." And I couldn't answer it. And when I couldn't answer it, I knew that I wasn't doing the right things that I should be doing to understand what the hell I'm doing in the first place. So it was very good. So I think maybe kind of like Noah was saying in that lecture area, maybe one person, when they go, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's okay. It's okay if you don't know. It's okay. It's
The
fine.
oh shit moment. I like that phrase. The
Yeah.
oh shit moment.
The oh
Sometimes
shit
they have, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad.
And
But
I had it face to face.
Right. No, it's fantastic because it's fantastic in the right setting. Obviously, if you're in front of a lecture hall, like 250 people, and you get the oh shit moment there, that's not a great time to have it, but better late than never. But it makes you think, right? Why am I doing what am I doing? What am I basing my decisions off of? And do I have some evidence or something to back up what I'm saying? And so it is as a scientist, the oh shit moment, which usually comes when my professors or peers are looking at some presentation I'm giving in front of for my research that I'm giving, and they're asking me a question. I'm like, oh crap, I don't remember why I did that, or I don't remember what that protein was, or whatever it was. But it happens in the paranormal field sometimes too, where somebody comes up, and I've been at library events where people have come in who have backgrounds in physics. Their wife dragged them to this paranormal talk, and they start asking me specific questions, or how do you know this is this and not that? And I'll be like, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that this is anything definitively paranormal. The point is that it's interesting, and this is why. And these are the things that I did. And after the talk, they'll come up to me and they'll say, I really thought that this was just going to be some bullshit talk, but I can tell by how you answer that question that you're not just trying to, a lot of times people think we're trying to pull wool over people's eyes, or make them see something that isn't really there. When you're trying to actually kind of talk about this in a way that is conversational, that allows people to feel like they can share, but at the same time, you're not jumping to ridiculous conclusions.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or I have no conclusion yet. And I think a lot of it is just, be open and be able to explain why you're doing things. There's nothing wrong with that question. Why are you doing that? How did you come to that conclusion? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, you may disagree with me, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And we can all, we've all probably, between all of us, Noah's kind of new to the group, but between all of us and our history, we've all probably disagreed pretty heavily on certain things.
What?
It's just that, but that
psychology.
Yeah. It's look at those eyes. Jesus.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
Damn. The
That should
ghost.
be your profile picture.
Yeah. Kill you. But it's all about, and when you disagree, and if you look at the mainstream science, how things progress is when there's a lot of questions and a lot of disagreement. And you go back and you think about what you've done and you try to do it better.
Right.
And, I've repeated this a couple times, and I've posted on our Facebook page. I think I talked about it in some podcasts, but there's this historical debate between Ray Hyman and Chuck Honerton. and a parapsychologist, Chuck was, and Ray was a skeptic. And they were just head to head bashing each other back and forth in these journal articles and the editorials and the comments. And finally, they said, you know what? This is not getting us anywhere. Why don't we sit down and work together? And why don't we agree that here's the problems and how are we going to fix them? And by questioning each other and challenging each other, that's how they got better. And they actually came up with experiments together they both agreed to, and they found some pretty interesting stuff. So being questioned shouldn't be seen as bullying or attacking. It should be like, hey, I'm just asking you what you're doing, and I'm trying to understand it. And you need to have a very coherent, at least something that sounds reasonable as to why you're doing things or why you think you can do this. There's nothing wrong with that. And, I'll be the first one to tell you, if I don't know, I'm going to tell you, I have no freaking idea, or it sounds like a great idea, or usually I'll throw about 30 papers back at Kenny, but whatever. We just have fun doing that.
Yeah.
I'll own it, and you know what? Okay. Yeah. I'll go on record. I will own it that I will ask questions, especially when it comes to credentials, when people start to claim it. But if you start to avoid it, or you go round about it, and then to me at that point, that's when the gloves come off and I start becoming savage. And then, yes, I will start attacking you, because I would rather someone be honest in this community for once. For God's sake, just own it. Just, it's not hard. I'm but honest about things. Kenny and I, we've gone toe to toe, and there's been times when I've told him, you know what, listen, I don't know anything about science or about physics and chemistry and shit like that. And guess what? I'm not going to try. You know why? Because I'm not interested. I'll own that. That's what I do. If someone would just be honest and say things like that, that's one thing. But if they try and skirt around it, I get kind of mean.
Well, I think you need to realize, if you're going to say you're a researcher and you're into the science of it, you need to have an open dialogue and answer questions. Mm-hmm. That's just a given. And if you're not willing to do that, you might want to stop saying you're a researcher and practicing science.
I think that this is probably one of the main reasons I go to so many of these conferences. Like, I think Dave, you brought up something like, I was at a psychic conference, like I go to these conferences in order to engage people personally, because with social media, like it's easy to come across like a dick. Mm-hmm. It's really easy. I mean, and I can understand why people think, oh, you're attacking me or this and that. I can understand it to a degree. Sometimes it gets way out of hand, but going there and seeing people in their own environment and attending their talks, I really wouldn't call them lectures, because I really don't learn anything, but at least listening to what they have to say and engaging in conversation afterwards or during. They have like a Q&A. Mm-hmm. You can bring up these questions that like Noah brought up, and Dave, you brought up, and Tim, like you bring up these questions and you kind of put them on that oh shit moment spot. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily to make them look foolish or to, like call them out in front of people. Mm-hmm. Although when they're a dick, it really does, it's a guilty pleasure. But for the most part, the majority of the time, it's not because of that. It's to, hey, you brought up this point that has really no supporting evidence, or it doesn't have anything to back it up. Let me point that out, and maybe you'll think about that. And in my experience, in my personal experience, I've done that a lot, and it has led to conversations afterwards, like after their talk, during the rest of the conference, where we engage in conversation almost like this, where we can throw back ideas. And I guess to put it delicately, like I might have a reputation of being an asshole because of some people. And I guess when you're in person, it's nice to actually engage with people and have a conversation, and they understand that I'm not this just diehard skeptic online that just criticizes the shit out of everything. That I can
Yeah, but I see through the ploys of what's going on. Most of these conferences and these lectures and things like that, they're real selective about who they invite. And most of them are these enthusiasts that use the catchphrase critical thinking, scientific technology, blah, 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 blah. But they don't really want avid researchers. They don't really want true scientists. And then to save face, like we saw it recently this past week, a team who we all know is, pretty full of shit, that will get on Kenny's jock in the hopes of getting him on their side and try and bring him into a conversation or they'll invite Kenny to their conference or their event so that they have that buy of being able to say, well, we had Kenny Biddle here, and he's a huge skeptic, or he does this and that. But they don't say, well, we invited Cody Polston and his team from Southwest Ghost Hunters Association, or we invited Noah Lee out here, or we invited Sharon Hill out here to talk about the limestone, blah, blah, blah. They're real selective about who they invite to these conferences. So it's not as easy as you say, Kenny, of, when you speak at these things, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that. And as a side note, I will add that, like, for the particular group that you're talking about, I have refused their invitations because of what we're talking about. Because I don't want to lend any. I feel stupid. I feel weird saying it. I don't want to lend any credibility to any claims that they have, because I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I'll come talk to your group. I don't agree with their group. I don't agree with pretty much most of what that group has to say. So I'm not going to help them out.
I made that mistake once with that group.
Yeah,
I made that mistake.
It's not easy. I don't know if I gave that impression. It's not easy. Because like it's basically like dropping a goldfish in a shark tank. I mean, when I go to some of these conferences, because I
think they fear you more than you fear them, because I think that if a lot of these people, because for all intents and purposes, Kenny, you're a paraceleb.
Oh my
God. In a way, yes, it's true.
No.
So in a way, I think it's shut your face. So I think in a way they think that if they can get Kenny Biddle to say one nice thing, that it does lend some sort of credibility towards them, but there's, and no offense to you, Kenny, I love you to death. You're my brother, but there's more than just Kenny Biddle out there. There's people, who have advanced degrees in science and who've been doing this a long time and who aren't, shitting fairy dust and farting, rainbows or anything else like that. They're not out in La La Land. They know what the fuck they're doing. So why aren't they inviting them? If you really are interested in critical thinking, if you really want to know about this and that, why not invite them?
I totally agree.
That's not what those conferences are for. They're trying to get butts in the seats, and so that's why they're going after the people on TV and the people who are paracelebs, as you said, like Kenny. And so because of that, that's why they don't want the Joe Schmo, even though what the Joe Schmo might have to say is super interesting. That's not going to get people to buy tickets to their conference. And so, I understand that from a business perspective. And the majority of the people who go to those conferences are going to buy tickets, don't want to hear how their ghost photo isn't a ghost, but it's lens flare, or it's just dust, or they don't want to hear that. But that's why when I have an opportunity to provide that dream crushing ability, I will, because they are so few and far between, and that might be the only place that they see it or hear it is at that conference that they went to. It might go right through their ears, but at the very least, I had an opportunity to maybe make a difference in one little small child who hasn't already come to a conclusion about this. and might think about it more critically than their parents do.
Well, that just surprises me though, because when this whole thing really started kicking off about, what was it, 15 years ago? Remember when TAPS first came out, the ghost hunting
2004.
shows first, when all this stuff really first started coming out, it was also at the same time as one of the, I thought was very entertaining and long-running shows, Mythbusters. People were up in arms with the fact that that was canceled, and people still like that. Or Brad Meltzer's Decoded. I don't think that I think a lot of people like Sherlock Holmes and Scooby doing these things because that's how it really kicked off.
Because they're not addressing the specific beliefs. I think there's a different genre. The Mythbusters took a lot of myths and they were an entertaining show. It was beautiful, but they dealt with stuff that was not.
But I'm saying with with ghost hunting, what put them on the map was the fact that, at the time, Jason Hawes it was almost impossible to get him to say that, yeah, this place is haunted or this place is paranormally active, because what their big thing was debunking. That was their catch. That's what really got them started. And a lot of people enjoyed that. And a lot of people still do like that aha moment. I don't know why we have to dumb down society this way. This is, is in the water? What the fuck?
I think because it wasn't in it was not entertaining to the people that were watching it. You don't want to.
Well, shit, it lasted for a long freaking time.
They definitely changed their techniques later on in the show. It was not like their first season is by far their best season as far as that debunking and showing what's actually involved in investigation. And as they got more popular, that show was edited very differently, and the spooky music was added and all that sort of stuff.
The cutscenes.
So yeah, exactly. So that's because they realized, okay, well, we have this many, hundreds of thousands of viewers, but we want millions of users. In order to do that, we have to make it look.
They had to contend with Ghost Adventures, which came out at the same time.
Roughly, look at that show. Look at that show. Look at the over the top, overacting bullshit that is associated with that show, and it's still on the fucking air.
And all the people that come on that show that have credentials and are demonologists. That's another credential. Yeah, I'm a demonologist.
You said demonologist and credentials in the same sentence. That's funny.
Yeah, it irritates and this is what's crazy. I am a religious person. It irritates the fuck out of me. I said religious and fuck in the same word too, in the same sentence too. But yeah, it's along the same lines. To me, that one's just as egregious as claiming to have a PhD in parapsychology.
Or quantum mechanics.
Oh my God. Does she not understand what MD stands for? It's a medical doctor, you dumb fuck.
So
this is why I like to shut up and listen.
Oh my goodness. So
I really try.
What can we do? What kind of advice can we offer people watching now and later? What can we offer to, I guess, get better education and to understand, like, who's teaching classes, what to avoid? I mean, personally, I would say, I think we've covered it. I think it was mentioned earlier, but look into the person teaching a course or a class or doing a lecture. Every time I go to any kind of conference, whether it's a skeptical conference, a science conference, or a paranormal conference, doesn't matter. I always look up the speakers. I want to look up their backgrounds, see what they have, what kind of education they have, what kind of qualifications, what are they teaching about. And usually during science and skeptical conferences, usually have a pretty diverse background, a pretty legitimate background. I can't really complain much about it. But when I go to paranormal conferences, it's usually paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, been doing it for 20 years, 21 years, something like that, where you see the methods that they use. It's pretty much identical. It's a cookie cutter from the TV shows that you see. There's nothing different. So I kind of look for education, what they're teaching about. And I guess that's the question. Let's start wrapping this up because we're about an hour and a half. So what advice would you guys give to people that are watching when they're seeking out education for this hobby? Dave, start with you.
Yeah, like I said before, I'd take a look at who they are, what they've done. Look for a syllabus of what they're going to be teaching. Look at their website, like you mentioned. Are they using reputable sources? Are they using anything besides "I've done this for 20 years and come and believe me"? I mean, there are books out there, and I had to bring one to show, of course. I mean, this is the book that they use at the University of Edinburgh. I mean, it's a college level textbook, and you know why? Because it's filled with data, stats, case studies, and references. There's a reason behind it. There's a knowledge base behind it. If you believe the data and accept it for what it proves or not, that's one thing. But there's information there. It's accomplished individuals that have a name in the field. So look at the person, look at their background, look at their. I mean, I would say go as far as their education. Go look at their website. How does their group conduct an investigation? What do they put on their website? If you're scientific and you're trying to teach the community, you better have something on that website that shows anything that I can take a look at and say, am I going to learn something here? I would, if you have questions, obviously I would say you could ask us. Not that we have all the answers, but we could at least hopefully point you in the right direction. I think we've all seen good stuff, bad stuff, questionable. But I would, one of the things I would definitely stay away from is if they say they're going to give you a certificate or a diploma and it's an individual and it's just some class that's being taught at the Motel 6, probably not for you.
Wow.
I mean, I would encourage people. I would encourage people to go look at, any skeptical society, any skeptic organization. That would be one way to take a look. But I would also take a look and encourage you to take a look at like the Parapsychology Foundation, the Parapsychological Association, the University of Edinburgh. Those places will list where you can get education in the field. So there's a lot of different academic type and professional organizations where you can go and try to see and find classes to take.
Cool. All right. I'm going to skip Mel. I'm going to wait till the end. You're going to be last, Mel. So Noah, what do you got? You got to unmute. There you go.
Yeah. So basically, anybody who says that they're an expert in any field in the paranormal, I would run for the hills. There's no such thing as experts in this field. We're all learning. I think that I agree with everything that Dave said as regards to if you're going to take a class, you got to know who you're taking it from. If your goal is learning something in that class, let me preface that. If you just want to go have fun, okay, whatever. As long as you're not going to then turn around and start making life choices based on what you learned in this class.
Good point.
But if you want to learn something, if you want to actually learn something and say, yes, I'm going to take this knowledge, I'm going to expand upon it, build upon it, or use it for whatever I want to use it for, then yes, please make sure you're vetting whoever's giving you that knowledge so that you can say that, yes, I think this person's qualified to teach me something. When it comes to conferences, again, you want to go to a conference and have fun, don't worry about it. You can look at it, laugh it off, whatever. Not making life choices, go have fun. But again, if you're like, oh man, I'm really interested in this topic and this person's teaching it, look into that person. Have they done any other talks about this? Where? What is their education? What is their background? And what are they doing? If they're saying one thing, but their group is doing something else, well, why is that? Like, why aren't you practicing what you preach? I hate when people do that. Like, oh yeah, this is all the things I do. Okay, well, I just was on an investigation and heard about this, and you're doing the exact opposite of that. So why is that? I think it's really important to do your best to always to practice what you preach. But I think that's really the most important thing is You know, a lot of people in the field, in the hobby, and the reason why I say the field, but it's a hobby for a lot of people. They're doing it in their free time. They want to have fun. And a lot in science, for those of us who do science, is a lot of times not fun. It's very rigorous. You have to do a lot of things over and over again, write down a lot of notes. And it's not going to, the way we do investigations is definitely not going to be for like 95% of the field. They're not going to want to do it. But if they're going to go out and then start trying to teach people how to do things, well, that's a different story.
Cool. Very nice. Tim, you're up.
Well, I can't add much more on questioning, who you're going to take the class from. I do have some questions that I like to kind of fill out that I've learned over time, and I watch how they respond to different questions. So if someone's teaching a class or they want to teach a belief or philosophy or a technique into something, I ask them, what are the arguments for what you're teaching, and what are the arguments against what you're teaching? So if all that they can tell you is the arguments for what they're teaching, then they're just trying to teach you bullshit. Because if you're going to understand what you're doing, then you're going to understand the arguments against what you're doing as well as the arguments for what you're doing. So someone that understands what they're teaching, what they're practicing, will understand both sides. I think that's just my personal opinion. Also, how they're going to respond or how they react to questions when you ask them or you challenge that belief. If they respond with, do your own research, if they respond with a very vague, drawn out question or very vague, drawn out answer, I tend to have learned over time that they're probably selling you something. So educating people and selling something to people in my opinion, are two different things. Someone that is educating will know both sides for and against what they're trying to do. And someone that's just selling you something is just going to know all the fluff. That's kind of one of the things I like to do before I get into any type of classes or any type of belief from somebody. So I like to ask them. I would imagine, you could email them, call them, ask before you take the class, because I'm sure some of them are quite expensive. But that's what I would like to do. I would like to know if they can tell me reasons against what they're teaching and reasons that support what they're teaching.
That's interesting. I think that would throw a lot of people off, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm going to go, and then I'm going to drop it off to Mel because I can't wait to hear what she has to say. But I pretty much agree with everybody so far. I would say if you're going to take a class or a course, especially if it's an online course, look into where it's from. There are accreditation societies or associations that focus on online courses. So it's good to see if they're an accredited place. It doesn't always have to be accredited, I guess, because there are continuing education things that are just more for fun, for interesting topics to go into. But again, it's kind of like a gamble on who's teaching the course. And that leads into look who is teaching the course, look into it, find out their background, who they are, what they've done. If they wrote a ghost book that is just a ghost hunting 101, that's pretty much the cookie cutter of like the hundreds of other books that are out there with the same shit, then it's really not worth it. If you want to do continuing education, I mean, I would suggest doing like photography courses. I mean, I am biased towards photography because I love photography, and pictures are pretty popular within the paranormal community. So knowing and understanding how your camera works is definitely important. There's no reason why you can't take some community college courses or classes, because they do offer some pretty interesting classes, and it helps you understand things better. Writing courses, photography courses, video editing, that will help, because there's a lot of videos out there that if you don't know some of the tricks of editing, you're not going to spot a potential hoax. So that's really good. Look in the science literature. I know this is peer-reviewed papers and journals. I mean, this is something I rely on Dave for a lot because I mean he's like the peer-reviewed journal guru that I know. But look into the literature, look in the science literature. If you're investigating a claim or a phenomenon, take a look at what's out there already, because there might be studies, there might be experiments that already help you understand what's going on. Watch out for the cookie cutter shit. Seriously, if you look into someone that's giving a lecture, because again, I attended a lot of paranormal lectures or paranormal conferences that have speakers, and when I look into the speakers and find out what they're talking about or what their background is, it's usually the same cookie cutter shit that you see on TV already. It's not worth going to. It's not worth attending and wasting an hour of your time because you really don't learn anything. You can watch it on a TV show. You can watch an hour TV show literally on fast forward and get through it in 15 minutes and learn the same shit you will by sitting for an hour for a lecture. So know who you're dealing with. I guess that's the main point. Know who you're dealing with and who's teaching the class. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melanie and give her the last word.
Okay, so my last word is, if people are listening to this, then more likely than not, they're in the paranormal community. So I'm gonna address you fuckers. Just stop. Honestly, cut the bullshit. That you want to make this community better. You want to advance it. You want to push it forward. Stop catering to this. Own your shit. If you learn from things, from reading, from following podcasts, from experimenting, say it. I would have a lot more respect for somebody who says that than they make up some sort of bullshit title, because the minute you start faking your credentials, everything else that comes out of your mouth has no merit. There is absolutely no weight to it. That's across any field. So, and my thing is, just be honest then. Own this stuff. Say, and stop feeding and promoting these people that you know are full of crap. Because if you continue to do that, you are just as bad as the douchebags that are faking the funk anyway. So at the end of the day, it's quite simple. Knock it off, dude. Seriously, grow up, put your big boy panties on, your big girl panties on, pull your bootstraps up, own your shit, and be real. Because otherwise, you're going to get called out, and then we're going to get savage. And once you're on the radar, it's really hard to come off. The end.
Nicely put. And that was a great ending to the show. So that's it. I mean, if anybody have anything coming up that they want to promote, this is your soapbox moment. So if you want to get up and promote anything that you're going to, anybody? No? Okay.
Nope.
So then.
And you're the only one who's into self-promotion. I mean, why are we all kidding here? Didn't I just finish saying quit faking the funk? What the fuck?
Whatever. Fuck.
It's so much fun.
Your camera doesn't work right now, so I can't see your expression.
Oh, I know. It's because I have to prepare for my first class I teach is tomorrow morning at 4:30. You know, so
whatever.
Well, normally I start teaching at 3 a.m. So
wine, whatever. Anyway, so I think this was a good discussion. I had a lot of fun. I appreciate everyone getting together. I know it's hard to get all 5 of us together at one time. It was very difficult because we are spread across the country, literally. And but it was good. I appreciate everyone coming together and giving their thoughts, giving their experiences and opinions. It was really good.
And credentials.
And what?
And credentials.
And credentials. Yes.
Yeah, that was a very difficult thing, Kenny. You know, I don't really like to talk about it, especially in this community. I'm very protective of things like that. So
I know
we all took risks with this.
And I thought about that, but I mean, honestly, I mean, this is a show about credentials, and I didn't want it to because I know we were going to get into questioning other people's credentials. Even if we didn't name people, we were still questioning them. And I think it's only right that we say, hey, this is who we are. And we're going to start off on that foot and say, this is who we are. And now we're going to go and talk about, what should be done, what shouldn't be done, what, in our opinion. So I appreciate it. I know it was hard and not everybody likes revealing any kind of information like that, because there's definitely some douchebags out there that will take advantage of that. But I think we did good. I think we did good. I think it was a good discussion, and we made some good points. And I hope that anyone watching this rather than get angry at anything we say or get upset or take offense at it, I mean, really consider it. Think about what we said. Think about what everybody on this, I guess, panel brought up, the points that we brought up, what we discussed, what we detailed, and think about it. Take a look in the mirror. I know it's been mentioned, like Melanie and me, we've gone back and forth. Sometimes we've gotten into really heated conversations, especially face to face, because it's really fun.
It is. I usually win. I'm savage.
No, you don't. No, you
I
don't.
stutter. Yes, I do.
Whatever. Whatever. You say that when
The Paraceleb always wins.
Oh my God! Oh, you are so not invited to the next show.
He's part of the panel. He's part of the panel. You can't
TV.
boot him.
I know. I'm kidding. But it's good. I mean, every time we have those conversations, whether it's me and Mel, me and Dave, me and Tim, and now hopefully me and Noah, I seriously take a look at myself. I seriously take a look at what I do and question, like, am I doing it right? Should I change this? Should I improve this? It makes me think. It makes me look at myself and improve myself. So I do appreciate it. I like the criticism, even though it's hard sometimes. I still take it, and I still, I guess, profit off it, because I make myself better. And I think that's the point of this. So I appreciate you guys a lot. I love you guys.
Oh, vomit.
The best thing, the point of peer review is constructive criticism.
Yep.
They're basically hand in hand. So
exactly. And I mean, that's great. And you guys are my peers. I mean, you're my friends too, but you don't
we keep it real.
Yeah, you keep it real. I mean, you fucking, oh my God. Out of all of you, Melanie is the worst.
What?
What do you mean, what?
I guess we all have something to strive for.
I have to work on being meaner. I take that constructive criticism to heart.
Time to turn to dick level number 10.
Well, you know what? For example, even before we cut off.
Hey, Mel, do you have like a university you can start?
Yeah, how to go for the jugular 101.
Yep.
Mel's University.
And get a certification in that.
Yes,
Certificate.
and it'll only cost you $346, not including books.
Totally worth it. Every nickel.
When I send
you.com.
when I sent an invitation to when I started talking to Noah about coming on and being part of this, he actually brought it up and we talked about it. But I gave him. He did a video recently, which I freaking loved.
That was good.
It's on YouTube, and it's about useless paranormal equipment. And I thought it was beautiful. It was short, sweet, to the point. And I actually talked to Dave a little bit, and there was a little bit of criticism that we brought up, and I brought it up to Noah. And instead of getting upset or butthurt about it, we talked about it. He said, "Okay, good. Like, I'll take it under advisement," and he was going to talk about it to like his partners and the people he worked with. So it wasn't.
And I'll come out and say it was, I thought the information was fantastic. The white lab coats. I got to admit, I did laugh because I used to wear white lab coats. I can't fucking stand them. So anyway, it wasn't personal. It wasn't about the information. I thought it was something funny. And I'm like, I told Kenny, I'm like, great video, but dude, lose the white lab coat. And, hey, it is what it is. I'm not,
But
nothing personal. No,
he's an actual scientist. He gets the lab coat.
That's true. Yeah, you make a good point
So
there.
he earned that fucking lab coat. Wear that lab
Yeah,
coat.
that's
As
true.
I
And a
told
badge.
You
Kenny,
make a
that's
good
my,
point.
my
You make a
actual
good point.
coat.
That was
You make a
not.
good point.
That was not.
No matter what you do, no matter what
Well, he
field you're in,
started.
no matter what area you're in. I'm in research, I'm in history, and there is always going to be a critique. There's always going to be criticism. There's always going to be someone who doesn't necessarily agree with you.
Mhm.
Don't take it personally. If you are going to take it personally and get so thin-skinned about it to where you're going to cry, then you know what, crispy crybaby, you need to go into a different hobby or don't put it out there. Keep it to yourself. It's that simple. Just know that the minute in this micro society you start putting out information like that and start making claims that you are this or you are that, you open a door and we will walk through it.
But that was the thing with that video. That was great information, regardless of the little poke and humor about the lab coat, whatever. but the information was really good, and that was the key.
Right.
Because he went to a real school.
And nobody gives a shit if I care if you wear a lab coat or not. So who cares?
Well, no,
I do.
it's important, right?
I
Because
care.
the point
I
is to get as
absolutely
many
care.
people to watch the video as possible, right? So if a lot of people are like, "Oh man, they look really cheesy in those lab coats," well, that's good feedback, right? Because if someone isn't going to watch that video because we're wearing lab coats in it, then that's not going to get my message out, right? That's not going to get the useless information. Not the useless information, the useless equipment information out to as many people as possible, which is why we made the video. So it's definitely good feedback.
I don't think.
Keep up the work, though.
I don't think it wasn't feedback in like a dick kind of move. Like, oh, you look stupid wearing fucking lab coat. I explained exactly why. I brought it up, and I also know that you're a scientist. I also know that your background. So I understand that it was your actual lab coat. And that wasn't.
What is the name of the video so that people can look, people who are listening, and what is the name of the video that they can work so that they can find it?
It's called Useless Paranormal Equipment. It's on our YouTube channel page for the paranormalmilwaukee.com.
I'm going to put it in the comments.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a great video. It's fantastic.
It is good.
It's like 9 minutes. It's not all encompassing, as I told Kenny. There's some pieces that are missing, but we don't. I like to use actual items, and I don't have all of the useless equipment because it's useless. But when we do come across stuff, we try to incorporate that. So we do have like a K2 meter and stuff like that in the group that we use as a prop.
That's the best description of using a K2 meter I've ever heard. A prop.
I commonly refer to it as a doorstop sometimes. It could make a good doorstop if you. I said it makes a good boat anchor if you tie a boat anchor to it first.
Nice.
There it is.
Uh-oh. What has he got there?
He's
He's got to say
bank
something so we
meters.
can see him.
There you go.
Okay.
So I have a whole bunch of.
We don't want to see it right now, Kenny. We can save that for a different show.
do.
Thanks. This is over. Thanks. Bye.
Shut up. You shut your hole.
You don't have the con.
Oh my God. I have all the control. I can mute you.
I muted myself. You're not the
I
boss.
can mute you myself too. All right. So I'm good. Great show. I enjoyed it. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
Fantastic.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you letting me into your panel. I hope that I will be invited back despite Kenny's paraceleb status, and we can have more awesome conversations.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Don't hang up yet. I'm going to stop the broadcast, and then we can chat it for a couple minutes afterwards. All right. So see you next time. Later.